In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the area of quadrilaterals, and you'll need to get out your Go Math book and turn to page 371, your math journal, and the pencil. Now, the essential question we're going to be looking at today is how can you find the area of parallelograms, rhombuses, and trapezoids? So let's take a look at the Explore activity. It says area of a parallelogram. It says recall that a rectangle is a special type of parallelogram. So we can see here, we're not going to draw a large parallelogram on grid paper or anything like that, but we can see that if we were to draw one, what we could do is we could cut the parallelogram on the dash as a line has shown right here. Then we can move the triangular piece to the other side of the parallelogram. So you can see we can have something like this, cut that little triangle off, put it to the right hand side, and we can see that we have formed a rectangle for letter C. So what figure have you formed? You can write a rectangle in there. And also, does this figure have the same area as the parallelogram? Yes, it does. So we can see what's the base of the parallelogram. That will equal the length of the rectangle. The height of the parallelogram would be the width of the rectangle. And then the area of the parallelogram equals the area of the rectangle. So you can see this shape on the left-hand side and this shape on the right-hand side will both have the same area. It just looks a little different. So we can see what is the formula for area of this figure. So area is length times the width. I want you to write this down. Or we could say base times the height. So what is the formula for the area of a parallelogram? It's important. Area equals base times the height. And if we have B next to the H without any operation, it's understood that the operation is multiplication. So we can see at the bottom, the area A of a parallelogram is the product of its base and its height. Remember, product means multiplication. So let's take a look at this Explore activity. I want you to set it up this way. Area equals base times height. It's important to go through this process. Now we have area. We're going to plug in our numbers. Area equals 14 times 7. And then area, we multiply 14 times 7, gives us 98. Now whenever we're dealing with area, remember it's squared units. Okay, so we need to look at our measurement, centimeters. Okay, so area equals 98. I want you to write this down. Centimeters squared. We just took the base, multiplied it by the height, give us 98. Now we looked at the area of a parallelogram, pretty basic. We can see just multiplying the base times the height. Now finding the area of a trapezoid is a little bit more complex. So to find the formula for the area of a trapezoid, notice that the two copies of the same trapezoid fit together to form a parallelogram. Therefore, the area of the trapezoid is 1/2 the area of the parallelogram. And you'll be able to see that in the formula in just a little bit. The height of the parallelogram is the same as the height of the trapezoid. The base of the parallelogram is the sum of the two bases of the trapezoid. So we can see trapezoid's two bases. We have base 1 and also base 2. Okay, so we can understand the area of the trapezoid is half the area of the parallelogram. You can see in the formula area equals 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. Okay, so we can see that's the area. And it's also important to remember the order of operations with this as well. Okay, so once again, area is 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. So let's take a look at that now. It says a section of the deck in the shape of a trapezoid is in the shape of a trapezoid. What is the area of this section of the deck? So we can see all the different measurements. Now our base 1 would be considered this top. So this would be the B1. This is B2. And then the 16 would be the height. Now we have our formula. It's important to write down that formula, get to know that formula. Okay, so we have, again, area. We can see on the left-hand side, area equals 1/2 times the height times the base 1 plus base 2. Now what you can do is you can plug in the numbers. So we keep our 1/2, multiplying that by the height, which is 16. You cannot switch these around. You'll get an incorrect answer with the height and the base 1 and base 2. You have to make sure you understand what those are. So the height is 16. Base 1 we can see is 17. Base 2 is 39. Now if you switch those, we know with addition it's not a big deal. You'll still have the same answer. So order of operations tells us to do what's in the parentheses first. So you add the base 1 and base 2 together. 17 plus 39, you can see 56. Now we have 1/2 times 16 times 56. Now we can go from an order from left to right since it's all multiplication. 1/2 times 16 gives us 8. Now we multiply 8, which is 1/2 times the height, which is 8, times 56. Remember that was the base 1, base 2 added together. So we can see 8 times 56 gives us 448 square feet. Or you could write 448 square feet like that. So now not every time we're trying to find area of something will it just be a shape. Sometimes that may be a word problem like we can see here. But let's still do this together. First thing we do is we're going to read through it. It says another section of the deck is also shaped like a trapezoid. For this section, the length of one base is 27 feet, and the length of the other base is 34 feet. The height is 12 feet. What is the area of this section of the deck? So we're going to write the formula out together. Area equals 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. Kind of ran out of room there. Okay, so I want you to write that down. Now we're going to plug in numbers for all these different parts of the formula. So we can write area equals 1/2, we'll keep that, times the height. Now we take a look at our problem, and we can see that the height is 12 feet. So 12. And then we can also see it's going to be multiplied by the base 1. So one base is 27 feet. And the other is 34 feet. Now we're going to go in order of operations here. So we're going to have to write the 1/2 again, times 12. So we're going to do the base 1 and base 2. We're going to add those two together. So I know that 27 plus 34 is going to give me 61. Now I'm going to go from left to right. So I have area equals 1/2 times 12. 1/2 times 12 is 6. I can drop my 61 down. 6 times 61. I'm going to multiply 6 times 61. That's going to give me 366. And we have feet squared. Okay, so area of that equals 366 feet squared. So you can see writing the formula out, plugging in the numbers for the formula, and then just following an order of operations for the area of the trapezoid. Now let's take a look at finding the area of a rhombus. So it says a rhombus is the quadrilateral in which all sides are congruent and opposite sides are parallel. A rhombus can be divided into 4 triangles that then can be rearranged into a rectangle. So it's important to know this background because that's why the formulas are a little bit different. And so that's why we're taking the diagonals and we're multiplying them, and then we're multiplying them by 1/2 and so on. Okay, so it says the base of the rectangle is the same length as one of the diagonals of the rhombus. The height of the rectangle is 1/2 the length of the other diagonal. So that's why we see there's the 1/2 part of our formula. So area of a rhombus, the area of a rhombus is 1/2 of the product of its 2 diagonals. So we can see area equals 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So you can see we have Cedric is constructing a kite in the shape of a rhombus. The spars of the kite measure 15 inches and 24 inches. How much fabric will Cedric need for the kite? So you need to find the area. So to determine the amount of fabric needed, you need to find the area. So first of all, we can see a diagonal 1, which is 15 inches. Diagonal 2 is 24 inches. Then from there, we have our formula. Area equals 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Then we substitute numbers. So we have 1/2 times 15, which is going to give me 7.5. Then you can multiply that 7.5 times the 24, giving us 180 square inches. So we can see that the area of that rhombus is 180 squared inches. Let's take a look at a few of these other ones. So we have number 3. We're going to plug in, we're going to write the formula out. So we have area equals 1/2 times diagonal 1 and diagonal 2. Okay, so first of all, we need to plug in the numbers. Area equals 1/2. We can have diagonal 1, which is 35, times diagonal 2, which is 12. So I now can start multiplying. 1/2 times 35. I'm just going to do 0.5 times 35. That's going to give me 17.5. Now I'm going to take that 17.5 and I'm going to multiply it by 12. You can see the answer for number 3 is 210 meters squared. We'll write that down. Now what I would like you to do is take a look at number 4, and you can work on this by yourself, and then when you're finished I'll have the answer for you. So I'd like you to pause the video now. Now you can see the answer here is 66.5 inches squared. Now let's take a look at number 6 together. So we're dealing with a fraction there. We don't want to get too nervous about a fraction or anything like that. We'll still write out our formula. So 1/2 times diagonal 1 and times diagonal 2. Okay, so we have area, I'm going to plug in our numbers now, equals 1/2 times diagonal 1 is 8 1/4. Now I can change that 1/4 into a decimal. I take 1 divided by 4, and that's going to give me 25 hundredths. So now I'll make that 0.5, in other words a half, times 8 25 hundredths. That's going to give me 4 125 thousandths. Now from here, I need to plug in my numbers. I did not do that. So we have 8 1/4. Multiply that by 40. So 1/2 times 8 1/4 times 40. So I'm going to take that 4 125 thousandths. And now what I'll do is I'll multiply that by 40. You can see my answer is 165 feet squared for the answer for number 6. 165 feet squared. So what I would like you to do is work on number 1 all by yourself. Find the area of the parallelogram. And when you're finished, you can press play and I'll have the answer for you. So work on that now. So we can see the base 13 times the height is 9 gave us 117 inches squared. Now what I would like you to do is work on number 2, and you can work on that now. Okay, so you can see the answer for for number 2 is 168 centimeters squared. Now I would like you to work on number 3, and you can work on that now. So you can see the answer for number 3 is 99 inches squared. Now wrapping up the video, it says how can you find the area of parallelograms, rhombuses, and trapezoids? For a parallelogram, you use the formula area equals base times the height. For a rhombus, use the formula area equals 1/2 times diameter 1 times diameter 2. For a trapezoid, use the formula area equals 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. You want to substitute the known dimensions and solve the equations. So this concludes the video on the area of quadrilaterals. If you have any questions about this concept, please come and see me.